that Vladimir Putin has sought over the years, to the extent that he wanted, or his people wanted, to create a political environment in which Russia might actually do better in terms of American policy. Then he failed, because the political atmosphere here is so toxic that there's no way that President Trump could ever think about lifting those Magnitsky sanctions or any other sanctions that have been imposed on Russia in the current environment. And in fact, what he's working on right now is to beat off an effort by the Congress of the United States to force sanctions over his objections, a bipartisan effort. So in that sense, it's sort of a win-loss depending on how you look at it.
Peter, according to your sources and your reporting, what can you tell us about the level of, not support, but the level of backing they might think they're getting in the White House from the Hill? Do they think it's receding? Do they think it's there and is stable? What's the mindset, do you think?
That the White House is getting right now from Republicans on the Hill?
Yeah.
I think right now they're obviously having trouble with that. They're not seeing a lot of Republicans jumping to their defense on this one. Very few Republicans want to get out in front and say, this is okay, this is overstated, don't make a big out of this, because they don't know what the next shoe to drop is. Look how this spilled out over the last few days. On Saturday, the first statement was, well, this is a meeting about adoptions. Well, yes, but that did come up, but that wasn't the main purpose that Donald Trump took the meeting for. He took the meeting, as we now know, over the last few days because he thought he was going to get incriminating information about Hillary Clinton. And I think Republicans are very leery of getting around that. But you saw they still have a legislative agenda. Just today, Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, said we're staying for part of the August recess so we can try to get some of this stuff done. They're desperate to get some achievements to go home to their districts and their states to talk about.
They're desperate to escape Washington, and now they're going to be as angry as their constituents at home are because they have to stay in Washington. But Peter, stick with us here. We're going to play a little slot from Lindsey Graham, who talked earlier today about what exactly is going on.
Well, there's two things. If there was a email suggesting the Russian government wanted to help you and you took the meeting, that's problematic. If nothing came of the meeting, I'd like to know that, because the harm is even engaging with somebody who suggests that a foreign government wants to help your campaign. Whether or not it bore fruit, I don't know.
Garrett Haig joins us from Capitol Hill. Garrett, how many Republican senators do you think Lindsey Graham is actually speaking for?
Probably quite a few, Mike. I mean, Republican leadership has made it pretty clear they would like to see this sort of hermetically sealed off as an Intel Committee matter. Mitch McConnell today, 3 times he was asked about this, what his personal feelings were, whether he was concerned about it. And all 3 times he said the Intel Committee is going to handle this. And that seems to be how Republicans have decided that they want to deal with this, at least publicly, try to seal it off. I think it's pretty clear Donald Trump Jr. is going to end up sitting in front of the lights at some point. But you do have folks like Lindsey Graham and like John who've never been big fans of the president, sort of his way of doing business. They may support pieces of his agenda, but not necessarily how he does business, who've been saying there's going to be more shoes to drop, and the shoes keep falling. I think they and others like them would like to see the president clear the decks with all of these things, as Jonathan suggested, kind of get everything out all at once, but there's no indication that the White House is going to do that, and that just slows down the process of getting anything else done here, because every day, and today we should be talking about health care extensively, we're also dealing with the latest shoe.
And Jonathan, it's ironic, it's much more than ironic, that all of this storm that we're all going through as a nation is caused by fake news media, Times and the Post, 2 heavyweights each and every day coming out with boom, boom, boom stories that are legitimate, fact-based, and in this case, provided personally by Donald Trump Jr.
Personally by Donald Trump Jr. That's what makes it so extraordinary. It seems to me that, at least definitely in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, Donnie, that by trying to preempt the New York Times by putting the emails out there himself, he's playing by New York media market rules. He thinks he's going to get ahead of the story and beat the Times at its own story when he is playing on a global scale, a presidential scale, which has completely different rules. New York is checkers compared to the three-dimensional chess that is Washington presidential politics and governance. And so, you know, I just think it's insane that he did what he did. And again, I go back to the president and his administration will continue to die a death by 1,000 cuts if they do not do the ultimate thing, which is just come on out and talk about everything.
Daily briefings. They're not going
No, I know,
but
you know,
your point about leaking stuff. Obviously, some celebrities caught smooching with somebody. Get it out there first.
Right.
Everybody knows, and I love the way the president applauded his son's transparency. Everybody knew it was breaking the Times a few minutes later. And there's starting to become a level of, level of stupidity in that the assumption that the entire global public, the American public, is stupid. Stupidity on the part of the Trumps that they can actually come out with a straight face or a straight tweet and say, I applaud the transparency when it's coming out in the news.
You're dying to say something.
Yeah, look, so I agree with Jonathan's earlier point that, look, if you're going to cut the puppy dog's tail off, you don't do it one slice at a time. You do it once, and then you get everything out there as quickly as possible.
Why would you want to cut a dog's tail off?
Yeah. Well, we have a shrink coming.
Just thinking analogy there. So, okay.
Just go with it for a second.
Take off the foot of a kitten, you know.
However, I don't think that that's what's going to happen here, because if you look at this from the point of view of Donald Trump, and that is that, you know, all the really smart people who are advising to do this or that, you know, these were all the same people who said that, you know, the really smart people who said that Jeb Bush is going to be the Republican nominee or Scott Walker is going to be the Republican nominee. No way that Donald Trump could win the nomination. He does it his own way. He wins the nomination. Then going forward against Hillary Clinton, all the same really smart people say there's no way he can win, electoral college, this, so on and so forth. He goes on, he becomes president of the United States. He proves all of his critics absolutely wrong. So from the standpoint of the president, why is he going to suddenly change his tactics? Why is he going to suddenly do what people like those of us sitting around the table would say you should go do A, B, and C? He's going to continue to do this his own way because he's won successfully thus far doing that.
But the real danger here is that while we may just be finding out about this meeting, Vladimir Putin in Russia has known about this meeting now for over a year. We talked about Sally Yates and the compromat that she was afraid of, and the Michael Flynn and his untruth saying that he didn't discuss sanctions with the Russian ambassador. We knew that that was false. She was alarmed. She rushed to the White House. For a year, Vladimir Putin has known, presumably, about this meeting, and one has to wonder, why not? I mean, he's had a couple of meetings now, one with the president. He's had a meeting with Secretary Tillerson as well. He's known this information. He's been sitting on it, and that's a real danger, and a danger posed to the U.S.
We have much more to come on this. Thanks to Hallie Jackson, Ken Delaney, and Garrett Haake. Coming up, reaction to this bombshell, or more reaction to this bombshell release of Donald Trump Jr.'s emails from a lawmaker in Capitol Hill. Should some members of the White House have their security clearance suspended? Plus, news that the Senate is delaying their August recess by 2 weeks. Yikes. Will they be able to get anything done with this cloud looming over Washington?
Meeting with a foreign government, that's a whole different issue than meeting with an individual. I've got to find out all the facts on this to be able to see, but obviously it's a